Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of Musings. I'm here with the delightful and delicious Mr. Richard. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
My pleasure. I think you're the first person to feature 3 times.
Did I really do 3 times? Wow,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, I think
third one.
I hijacked you on a Wednesday Night Live. I didn't.
It's always good.
I don't think I asked for consent.
That's all right. Listen, sometimes if you don't remember, does it really count?
Oh Jesus, we can't talk about that, dude. Jesus. But it's the third time on here, which is yes, I'm looking forward. We tried to catch up the other week, and then all sorts of bits and pieces and travels and all sorts of stuff was happening. So for those of my listeners who haven't met you yet, if you can give them a bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do now, and then we'll just get bantering from there. We've got heaps to catch up on.
Beautiful. So my name is Richard Aceves. I am just a StrongFit coach. I try to influence and mentor as many people that I come across. Our coaching style and our principles that we kind of run behind come from Julian. Julian Pinot, I don't know if anybody's heard of him, some sort of weird, crazy French man. Yeah. But right now it's been quite a bit of work on the nervous system, emotional mapping, the functional and wellness side of fitness. More onto the mental side of things, I would say. And so that's kind of what we've been working on now since I last spoke to you, is when I was first starting to beta test everything, and now everything's coming much more clearly. Like the patterns are definitely there.
Fantastic.
It's a little more secure. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you at the moment?
Right now I'm in California. So it's nonstop with traveling. So it's been, we created like a home base in Netherlands. And I've lived there for 2 months, but I've only been there 2 weeks. Yeah. So the traveling still doesn't seem to stop. So far, I'm pretty much booked now till April. When I come see you, we're going to do another seminar, StrongFit seminar and Coaches Week in Canberra. Canberra? Did I say that correctly? Canberra?
Canberra, mate.
Canberra.
No,
Canberra, mate.
No, we shorten everything here, so it's just Canberra.
Canberra. Yeah.
Anyway,
but that'll be in April, so that's kind of where our plans are taking us.
Fantastic. So just on that, so you guys are planning to be out here mid to late April for Seminar and Coaches Week, correct? Yeah.
So we'll do one seminar in the east of Australia and one seminar in the west of Australia for 2019.
Great. So you're heading off to Perth as well?
Yeah. I think it'll be our first time there. We've had quite a bit of people wanting for us to head on over there, so figure might as well try it out for one time. See what's going on over there.
Yeah, I was there a month ago actually.
Nice.
It was my first time there as well. So, in typical Dave fashion, I ran late and had to leave my luggage there.
Oh, there you go.
Had to get it not FedEx, but basically FedEx across the country.
Across the country. Oh, crazy, dude.
Classic Dave travels. I'm going to write a book called Flying in July. So, but yes, very good. So, just on that, so you guys are only running one seminar on the east coast of Australia, and that was at my gym here in Canberra. It's Australia. Cool.
Yes, exactly.
Which is very exciting. So,
it was filled up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really interesting this year rather. It feels like last year. Running the seminar, and it was almost like it was just a mad lead on because we didn't get enough sort of traction for Coaches Week.
Right.
And which it meant that we ended up spending more time together anyway, because you guys were here for nearly 2 weeks. But it was like all this content that was such valuable, like interesting, like content. Then it's like, cool. So we'll go see you guys in like a year, maybe. Like it's just
what the fuck do we do now?
It's like, all right,
yeah, it's
rope pulls and sled pushes. Let's fucking do it.
Right. Yeah. So it's we kind of start the seminar a little bit differently now. I think coach used to always want to look for a fight. And, for me as a coach and a mentor and someone that's coming in to take our seminar, take our Coaches Week, I'm here to make people better. I want to empower people to be just as powerful as I am. I want them to kind of live to their full potential as far as their coaching can be. And so I kind of started to create a small kind of hierarchy, or what I view as a hierarchy of a coach. Mm-hmm. I want to add to people's identity. I don't want to change their identity, and I don't want to create soldiers. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. I mean, if you look at coaching, it always kind of becomes a passion first, right? So I started to pay attention to everybody that's become a coach, and you look at 80 to 90% of them have had other careers in the past. And this is something that they, through exercise, I think through the CrossFit community, they kind of start getting really into helping people and moving better and feeling better, because when you exercise, you start to feel better. And so that the intent is there to help people. And then I think for a coach, understanding your intent, understanding your identity as a coach is very important. With whatever that may be. There's certain coaches that just want to go towards strength and conditioning and college kids and, do whatever they can, or to coach only games athletes. I don't know. I haven't met too many of those, but each coach has their own vision of what they want to fulfill within their career. And so for me, I want to help add to that. I don't want to change your views on it. Maybe, your views will change because you want them to change, but not because I'm forcing it or imposing it upon you.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. And so once you actually have the intent or your identity of who you are as a coach, as you will setting your own standard, I think that we need to do a much better job as personal trainers and people that deal with a lot of different types of human beings on a daily basis, as to how we can raise that standard. I think the standard of just getting people moving is great, but I think that there's something much deeper and much harder at hand for us as, career type coaches, as wanting to master the craftsmanship of being a coach or a mentor. And so for me, is I always have intent, identity. Then after that, you need to understand basic movement patterns, right? So I put that kind of under the torque chains. Start developing the coach's eye for how people are actually moving. And then you have to understand the nervous system. That's something that when we were in Canberra last, we were kind of exploring quite a bit. And I mean, now it's pretty well set in as far as, if you're teaching somebody to do Fran, which is meant to be a full-on fight state, and they're flowing through it, or they're going into a 45-minute Fran, it's not the same stimulus, right?
Exactly
so
right.
If you have somebody coming into your class that is having a massive fight with their spouse or significant other and has the stressors of work, and you have a kid coming in that's gung-ho to just want to go murder anything, are they going to get the same stimulus during Fran?
Yeah.
Most likely not.
Exactly right. It's interesting
Right.
how sometimes someone walks in and it's just it's a blank template, and we're like, all right, this is what the workout is. It's like, no, you don't work from the workout. You work from the person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you have to reverse
so
engineer
now,
that.
right. So now what we started to do and what we work with all our coaches now is how do we develop a class structure, because we all work with a lot of GPP classes, where you have people coming in that, someone could be having a fight with a spouse. Someone could have just lost a puppy or a dog or an animal or something.
Sure.
You have a guy that works 13 hours a day and is highly stressed out. You have the kid that just wants to murder everything. You have the guy that wants to go to the CrossFit Games, and you have them all in different states. So how do we get them all into a flowing and socializing state before we actually start the workout? And so we kind of started to develop this hierarchy for our classes where we can, before people come in, you start to educate them on the states, and maybe they have anxiety, maybe they suffer from a little bit of depression, they're a little bit more internal, they're trying to figure out intent. And then from there, we can actually start taking people, giving them pre-warm-ups, and then from there, we can bring them all into the class in a happy, socialized state. And then from there, let's say that we're doing...
Just before you move on, what's the point of that? What's the advantage of doing that? I agree with that, and I think it's like the coach's ability to adapt. So this is one of the most important things, is that it's not the client's role to adapt to the to adapt their learning style to the coach's teaching style. It's a coach's role to adapt their teaching style to the person's learning style. But that also means meeting them where they're at. And so we have 10 people walk through the door that are in different states and have, especially in the afternoon compared to morning, but mornings still, there's just less things that have happened in the day.
Right.
It doesn't mean they don't have stresses still, but they walk in, and why is it important then for the coach to get them into a similar like play state, so to speak?
I think this is my personal view.
Sure.
I think that a lot of people would agree with me, is we're, as a gym owner, as a coach for the class, as somebody that has a community, the community is a place, it's a safe place for everybody to show up to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important because we've all had classes where you have that one dude that's having a bitch of a day and he ruins it for the entire class. The energy is just gone.
Mm-hmm.
It drains the coach because he's trying to bring up the other 9 people and along with this guy up to a standard of energy and moving and happiness back to the gym. Yep. And one dude could just ruin an entire experience for an hour for the entire class.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now that continues to grow. You'll see that class maybe never actually grows as a community. So you'll keep the same few people there, but they're the same grumpy. You ever notice that each class has its own dynamic?
Yeah.
And so if the dynamic's never growing, if it's cancerous, for you as a coach, as a business person, how are you supposed to grow that?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Right? So one of the biggest things that I'll work with, especially through my connected coaching seminars, the first thing is going through something like such as the Enneagram test. And it's just it's a really good psycho-spiritual test for personality types is a way to think about it, but it's more than that. But it's not to show them how other people communicate. That's not the point. It's to show the coach how they communicate, right?
Right.
And the ability to adapt to different archetypes almost and different states and all that sort of stuff. Because otherwise, fucking Barry is just like, mate, pull your head in. But Barry doesn't respond with that, right? Because Barry has a type of personality, whereas somebody else that you can say that to, they're like, fuck, mate, you're right. And so learning to identify these different personality traits and learning how to adapt to those personality traits to be able to get the most out of it for them, which is one of the most crucial things and sometimes overlooked because it's the difference between having authority by position or authority by presence. And it's authority by presence that we need to help develop coaches to have so that it's not a matter of, we're doing this because I said so. It's like, look, man, you got choices. These are your choices and make a decision, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so for me, we've seen massive results with, we now have 80 people in our mentoring program. And with that, we have, close to 1,000 people, 1,000 members through different gyms that are trying this style. And people are able to hang out afterwards, after classes, and actually have conversations. They don't want to leave anymore. They're a lot more sociable. Understanding what state people are in is crucial when people go home. I mean, the beginning part of the workout is important just so that you don't drain the energy for the whole class. But also if you're having a fucking shit day and you just want to punch somebody in the face, and you come in and you're like, all right, guys, we're going to do some active meditation and get ourselves into the flow so we can start the workout. You still want to punch somebody in the face. So are you going to really go into a flow? No, you want to punch somebody in the face. So what if you came in and you saw that I was in a pissed off mood, or I walked in, there was a whiteboard, and I see an angry emoji pre-warm up where I take a sandbag and I toss the sandbag until I feel that I've won a fight. Mm-hmm. I let out all my energy there. I do maybe 10, 15 reps. I'm able to yell, get it all out. And now I'm called into class and now I'm happy. And I'm like, all right, I feel better now. Yep. And now we're going to go into the, active meditation, dynamic stretching, whatever, to get into flow. Like, yeah, I can do that. I'm good to go. Perfect. Now I can socialize again. I don't need to falsify that.
Sure. Yeah. I hear you. Yep.
And we also start looking at what happens when you send people home in an anxious state, right? So what happens if you don't go full circle now? So what happens if you're sending people home that are totally zonked out? And I've done that. Dude, when I owned my gym, I had my guys that would come in at 5 a.m, do sled sprints. And these were like high-end lawyers. Probably not the best thing to send them zonked out of their minds for their entire day of work. Right? So then how are you able to bring people back around?
Called beta testing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Dude, you had to test it. But how do you bring it all the way around so that when they go home to work, where they go home at night to their spouses, to their families, they can socialize and enjoy being there rather than thinking, oh shit, I should have gone RX at that workout and I could have probably done more here. So that to us has been crucial. How do we bring that mental side of it to all the members that we work with?
Yeah. It's integrated with the physicality as well, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. So I have recently had communications with an ex-business coach through a lawyer.
Nice.
Through a lawyer.
Okay.
I'll fill you in more of it later on. But what it was interesting, the week before it, I was like, I paid attention. I had a look at, because I have here the gym, and I'll sort of reverse this and I'll move it forward back to the story. We have a system that we call Health IQ here at the gym.
Okay.
And it covers 3 areas. It's move, mind, mouth, and there's 3 different tiers in each one of those, right? So with movement, it's safe, strong, sexy, which is simply like the safety first. We look at strong, which is actually a strong connection to the body. It's not just putting more weight on the bar. And then sexy is effectively movement mastery. And that's often like BJJ, or, maybe it's Olympic lifting or whatever the case might be. It's there's a bell curve there, and you can't skip it, right? You have to work through, and it takes years. So it's blood, sweat, and years. And then there's the mind side of things, which is student, scholar, sage, right? And so it's the same sort of tiers. As you look at it and you go, okay, well, what's the student level? What is the scholar and the graduation? And so once again, that takes. And then sage is the wisdom by experience, by delivering the education for years and getting feedback in real time. Okay. Right. And then there's the move, and we have simply nutrition 101 once again, which just starts with like what's macro effectively, right? What's the protein, and so on and so forth, right through to we do all our nutrition work through RP, Renaissance Periodization. Right. So the healthy eating template and then RP template. And this framework here is based off going, what is someone's goal? What is their destination? And then based on that, where do they need to be on this map? It's not about getting to sexy, sage, and like fucking 101 nutrition. Because for Anne, who's 43, who just wants to be able to walk with her family, hike on holidays, run with the dog, she doesn't need to snatch a barbell, get a brown belt in BJJ or a black belt. She doesn't need to be like consuming 50 books a year. She doesn't need to do that sort of stuff. So it's about going, where in this map do I need to be in order to live the life that I want to live? I'm like, okay, we've used that and it works really well. It's a great framework. And then I was like, hang on a sec. I don't have the same thing for coaches. And I was like, right, interesting. So I went about sort of looking at Coach IQ, but a week before old mate got back in touch with me through his friend, I was like, hang on a sec. I think I need to learn how to market and advertise better. And I said, I sort of felt like I was like holding on to how I was marketing and advertising, but I was asking for help. Right. It's like, I wanted a different result, right? But I didn't want to think differently. And I was like, fuck. Okay. So I went away and I cleaned the slate. And like that was literally 2.5 weeks ago. I'm on my 5th book already. And I don't know how many YouTube videos just going, that's how I consume information. I literally just drink from the fire hose. Right. And what I ended up putting together there was Coach IQ. And this is the same map for coaches to be able to go, okay, well, whereabouts in this map do I fit? Where do I want to fit? But also in that circumstance, what do I need to do in order to be able to get to these areas? And so once again, it's like, it's the mental game, there's the physical plane, and then there's the marketplace. And the marketplace is tainted with all the first tier stuff is all ethics, all morals, understanding your message, it's understanding your purpose, it's understanding your why, it's understanding all that sort of stuff so that when you're actually able to move to the marketplace, it's the same. And a lot of PTs and coaches have issues with this. But it's like, no, if you grow the best tomatoes and you go to the marketplace, the place at the markets, and you're the best tomatoes, you want to make sure that selling these tomatoes allows everyone to eat healthy tomatoes. So learn how to communicate your healthy tomatoes, right? And why they're the best, and make sure you can get a profit so you can go back and grow more and help more people. It's fucking really simple. But that was the thing with the Coach IQ, is that with the mental one, there's all student, scholar, sage again. The physical is actually general, specific, and then integrated, right? You see that once again, it's bell curve. People go general, Globo gym, right? And then they'll go specific. They're like, fuck, bodybuilding's a thing. CrossFit's the thing, right? Martial arts is a thing. And then if they're in the industry long enough, they kind of go, well, I mean, you can still do bicep curls. Like, yeah, you could probably just, every now and again, once a week I do this, and they start to integrate stuff, right? Right. And then with the marketplace, it goes influencer, disruptor, and then leader. Right. Yeah. And you can actually see that in Julian, because he was this influencer in his space, and then he's very, very disruptive. And I think he's moving and shifting over the next probably 2 to 3 years. He'll definitely shift into more of a leader space. but he's still disruptive. You know, you see it with Jordan Peterson, same thing. He was an influencer with the University of Toronto, and then he became disruptive with his videos online, and then he's been so consistent that helped shaped his message, right?
Right.
And then he's now moved into a leader in that space. And having that coach IQ framework is what I end up using with all my coaches and the coaches that I work with in the coaches circle. But it's understanding that we need that framework to be able to go, well, how do we get better?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I think we base it all on people just need to move. Right. And so the marketplace, especially for coaches and personal trainers right now, for me, it's been really hard in trying to get my word out there without, I don't know, if you've noticed, I've like shut down my Instagram, if you will,
just
and social media.
Photos of Spain. That's all I've seen.
Yeah, I know. Just a couple. I'm trying to come back too, but I haven't posted anything coaching related now. It's been a few months, and I just shut it all down just because I feel that it's such a saturated market, and people are constantly trying to sell their way and push their way. And so trying to find a way to just leave your knowledge out there and just the right people will find it is what I'm trying to figure out what to do now. As far as being an influencer in the marketplace. But I don't know. You look at so many people out there just trying to sell their things. This just monetary. And I'm like, but really, what is it that you're selling? You know, you start looking at, you look at like the business mentoring programs that they had, starting 8 years ago with CrossFit LA was one of the first ones that started it. Then there was like, you have Mad Labs, you have all these systems, and that's all it is. They're systems. They give you rules of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you run your business like this and it'll be successful. And I don't want that. Now you're changing the identity of somebody. You're creating rules. I want order in how I run my business, but I don't need rules of how I run my business. Right. And so that's where the biggest thing comes in is people now look at coaching and they want rules. They want, okay, so if I'm going to teach a squat, I'm going to teach the points of performance of the hip goes back, the hip crease needs to be below the knees need to be pointing out, the knees cannot go forward. There are all these rules of points of performance. But if you follow all these points of performance and you're still getting hurt as an athlete, you're not doing your job correctly as a coach. And what do? You send them to a physiotherapist. If you're going to be a coach of fitness, you should understand movement. And if you cannot persuade or educate somebody that you are coaching to feel a correct movement, then how are you really becoming better as a coach? Because what I've noticed is, and this goes outside of coaching, but just out of so many people is, well, I read this study and I did this and I did that and I followed it to the T. So if it fucks up, it's that study and that book and that person's fault. No, it's your own. You didn't experiment and you didn't try it out, so therefore you don't know. So the way I've changed my coaching is, I'm going to tell you what I want from you. I'm going to give you the intent that I want out of the workout. So rather than saying, I want you to walk 400 meters with a sandbag, I'm going to say, I want you to pick up the sandbag and I want you to take out all the stressors, all the anger, all the frustrations that you have in your life on this sandbag. So you're going to walk as far as you can until you let out those stressors. Is that going to be a different workout?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? If you give the intent of, I want you to do Fran like you're fighting for your life, that if you don't finish in under 5 minutes, your life is literally over. Is that going to change the workout to, oh, just go have fun? Right? So delivering the intent of what you want from each exercise is crucial. Not just giving the rules of points of performance, not just giving the standard range of motion. Because the standard range of motion, as you've noticed, especially if you start coaching for a long time, differs between person to person, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where if I'm teaching somebody how to squat, I'm going to first teach them about the torque chains, and I'm going to teach them in what muscles I want them to feel, what muscles I need them to be aware of, where their body needs to be in space. And then if I can teach them that, now I can teach them how to breathe to find their actual mobility for their squat. Now I can actually give them awareness of where their body is in space. Now they can go do squats on their own and not fuck up their hip.
Yes. Yeah. One of the
is
coaching.
Yeah, it's actually coaching.
Because your goal is to get your client not to need you, right? It doesn't mean that they have to leave the facility or the gym. Like, that's where you build in the subjective culture of it, right? Now, that's one of the things that simply a 10-step business mastery process can't actually. It takes time to develop your subjective components of reasons why, the culture, all the stuff that you can't actually physically point at. Those are they're the reasons why people stay.
Yeah,
right? That's
absolutely
it's the emotional human connection, in which we're doing whatever we can to remove that human connection and make it like, what are these points of performance? Points of performance. Fucking lay down with your thoughts. There's your points of performance, man. Like, figure that shit out. And why do you come here? I had someone contact me yesterday just asking for some guidance with a client that is just like super struggling with motivation. He's like, training 3 out of 5 days that he's meant to be training, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, maybe he needs a break. Like, I don't want to give up on him. It's like, you're kind of giving up on your morals by doing so. Like, it's his job. And I'm not saying that you just go, hey mate, fuck off. Although sometimes that's the right thing to say to someone. It's actually going like, look, you don't have to be here. You get to be here. And here's some decisions that I think you need to make, and I'm happy to support whatever decision you make. But be with the whole, all of you with the decision.
Right. Well, what's the intent of showing up to the gym, right? I mean, if the intent isn't there, then you're not. Even though you do the work isn't giving the results.
Yep.
Like I keep using this one all the time because I see it all the time. Is the girls on Instagram doing booty work now for 3 years, 5 days a week, and their ass is actually smaller, right? And so now, right. And so, like, I started to pay attention to this, and this is something that I've been working now is emotional mapping. So I've actually kind of done emotional mapping and being able to see where traumas are kind of held up in the body and how all this kind of works. And think of what you're doing. You're creating rules for somebody to get results. Now they come in at the beginning of their CrossFit career or training career, whatever it is, fitness career. There's random variables where they have control over and they're enjoying it. They see results. Now their knee hurts, their hip hurts, something happens where there's a trauma. Anxiety starts to build up in the body, right? Energy starts to build up because they see squats, and now they know that looking at squats may make their hips or their knees or something ache. So now that anxiety is going to derive to different results on the squat. They're going to start moving a different way. They're going to start changing the ways they actually perform the movement.
Yep.
Okay. So now we start to have these anxieties. So what do we start to do? We start to create more rules, because after I hurt my hip, I came back to squat and I realized that if I put the plates perfectly balanced in this squat rack and I didn't step on the lines outside of the mats, my back didn't hurt. So subconsciously now, every time I show up to the gym, I'm like, guys, I've been here for a year. This is my space. This is my squat rack when I squat. Like, do you have people like that, right? Super OCD about everything they do.
There's some people that they feed off routine, but it's sort of like, if you look at the balance of chaos and order, it's like too much order is not good, because that's tyranny.
Too many rules. You need order.
Yeah, but too much order, as in everything's order.
Right.
That's what I mean by everything is order. Sorry. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. But so that starts to create the anxiety, right?
Sure.
You start to see anxiety in that sense of people need to continuously have rules. And so for me, it's that I started to take a look at it. I actually spent the last 4.5 months giving myself a close to full-blown panic attack, just by creating rules and losing at my rules that I was creating. And I was able to see how I could battle this kind of anxiety attack and this panic attack, because if I can't go through it, I don't know how I would be able to help somebody go through it. So I gave it to myself through movement. And that's what you realize is all the people that have been to your gym for more than 2 years have all these orders, all these rules.
Sure.
They're just simple rules of, if I do all these stretches for 45 minutes, I can then snatch.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we start to give them a release of anxiety, what do we need to do? We need to provide them random variables where they can have control. Why did CrossFit work so well in the beginning? It was constantly random shit where you had control of what was going on. But then as it starts to progress, it starts becoming the same exercises over and over and over again. And you start to create these same exact rules for each of the exercises. You start to pace the workouts in the exact same way. There's no more random variables that you can have control over. So what do you start to see? You start to see people creating their own basic panic attacks, their own anxiety. They need to start training twice a day. They need to start training 6 times a week, 6 times, they need to continuously do all these things to try and regain what they had in the beginning.
Yeah.
You see it with people that have lost weight or that were really strong and actually reached like a pinnacle of fitness, and they kind of had a massive adrenal fatigue, whatever you want to call it. They jump off the bandwagon, they get out of shape, and they want to get back into fitness or back in shape or back into lifting heavy, and they lose their shit because they think that their skill set is still up here when it's really down here. They know that battle. So what do? Is they go back to, okay, well, this is what I did when I first started training. So if I do it again, it's going to work. But if you're not in the same state of mind, if you don't have the same intent, then it will not be the same results.
Yeah. You can take that as almost advice from yourself, but once again, when it becomes the actual rule that's what I have to do,
then you lose it.
For sure. What works in your 20s won't work in your 30s. The same at least, and same with your 40s and 50s.
Look at all pro athletes. Once it's a rule that they have to perform well, they start fucking losing it.
Well, they stop
if you look at
playing for the reason they started playing.
Yeah, I mean, look at Katrin last year. She did not want to be at the games, man. She was not fucking there mentally. You could see in her eyes. Like now I'm really good at picking up people's kind of vibes, and you can see the dudes and like the athletes that just don't want to be there anymore. They'll fucking just tank right away.
Dude, there's so much more that I want to go through. I'm actually
you have to go to class.
Soon. We've got about 5 to 8 minutes. It's like 5:15 here in the morning now. -4 here today for those of you that are listening. I hope you're cold. But
it's nice and sunny here.
Yeah, I can tell. Man, this is my first year not being in Cali for since 2014, so I'm jelly. I want to go into anxiety a lot more, and I want to go into this wellness concept a lot more as well. So I'm going to ask to get you on in next week or whatever. Perfect. Or the week after, and I really want to put some more time aside because you'll be in a different time zone then.
Yeah, I know.
And pull it apart a lot more because I've got a lot to add to that anxiety side of things, which is super interesting.
Perfect.
Crazy how they're overlapping. But for now, I've got a couple of questions for you for my Mood Prep online group. So Mr. John Sheridan, who I dare say you'll meet, and you'll probably love him, hopefully not more than me. Sorry, John. I haven't done enough background to know if this is covered elsewhere, but I'd be interested to hear how his training philosophy has changed over time and what the biggest perspective shift / opinion change has been over that time. So what would that be, that number one thing? The key log.
The key log. I think it's finding the intent before you train.
Right. Okay.
Has shifted.
Love it.
It used to be do the training no matter what. Now it's what is the intent for today's workout? What is my goal for the workout for today?
Great. And what do you think has been the biggest result from that?
I enjoy training again. I can have fun training again. I can go back to, I stopped doing like CrossFit for a while just because for me, it gave me anxiety because I felt that I had to perform a certain way, even though my skill set was no longer at that, peak position.
Yep.
And so it would give me anxiety to train with others. And now for me, it's changed the entire outlook for how I approach training. I enjoy it a lot more. It's a lot more, how do I become more efficient? It's a lot more emotional now. So I go into it as to, okay, so I need to try and figure out what's happening with my left hip. So what's happening internally that I can express externally. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a big shift. I haven't done too much performance training as of the last 2 years, just with all the travel and everything. So I may start getting back into performance training now with the proper intent behind it, not to prove it to anybody else, but just for myself.
Yeah,
which I think is massive.
Beautiful, love it. And then Paul's from Melbourne, I'm pretty sure, because he goes, I did the seminar in Melbourne this year, and there was so much content that much of it got lost somewhere deep in my mind, hopefully in your subconscious. I'm interested to know more about the state versus action principle they talk about. It would be good to hear some examples of how it can be applied in different circumstances. So the last part's a little bit broad, but fair enough. So let's have a look at that. So let's go. Can you please, for everyone playing along at home, firstly explain state versus action, then I can probably point to a video on YouTube. And then we can sort of have a look at some examples from there. So let's have a look at that.
Yeah. So state versus action is simple, man. You need to be in the correct state in order to create the action. Right. So if you're in a anxious state, how can you be asked to do yoga? Okay. You can't complete the correct action. So for us as coaches or for us as athletes, we need to be put in the correct state in order to produce the correct action, right? If I'm going to have you do a sandbag carry, for example, a very practical example, I like sandbag carries, if you can't tell, right? I need you to be in a flow state. I need you to be in the parasympathetic state externally, and internally I need you to be in a sympathetic fight state. Right? So what do you start to see, and you can do this at try out for your warm-ups, they're awesome, is do a session, just a quick, I call it like my quick cycle, hierarchy cycle for the nervous system, and do a sandbag carry, and I'll explain to you the state that I want you to complete the action in. So we're going to start the sandbag carry by being in a sociable flow state, parasympathetic, externally, and we're going to start by picking up a sandbag, pick a partner, and start talking with your partner as you guys are both carrying sandbags. Okay? As you start to walk, you're going to notice that you're going to start wanting to get into a very mental sympathetic state because it's going to start to hurt like a motherfucker because it gets heavy. And so you're then going to...
Sympathetic state is fight?
Fight, yeah. Yep. Exactly. And so as you start to get into a fight state, you're going to start noticing that you or your partner will not want to have a conversation anymore. So from you guys going and having a conversation, we'll turn to very short answers or probably just getting really silent. The face will absolutely change quite a bit, and you'll probably start breathing a little bit heavier. So it's your partner's job to realize, hey, this dude is probably going into a fight state, so it's time for him to go. So now I've changed the state of the workout halfway through of the carry. As you start to carry, you're going to have a nice little voice coming inside you. It's going to go, just drop the fucking sandbag, man. This is heavy as shit, right? That's your flight state starting to come into play. And then what's going to be your fight state going to be like, no, man, come on, you can keep fucking fighting. So you start going into a fight flight. So you're going to keep pushing it all the way through until you go to a full flight state, which is where you drop the sandbag. Right? Now, what do? Usually when you drop the sandbag, you either go in the fetal position because you feel your back is spasming, or you kind of stand in that resting position. You go into a freeze state, the reptilian state. Right? And now I only had you walk one way. So now you've walked anywhere from 400 to 800 meters with a sandbag. And you're like, fuck. So what do you have to try and do? You have to bring yourself back. So you start to have this mental conversation in your head. You start socializing with yourself, and you pick up the sandbag and you walk all the way back. That's going to be an absolute fight for you the whole way through. That's going to peel quite a few layers that will lead to some very intense emotional things for a lot of people. It'll bring out some revelations. And once they come back in, I basically have them drop the sandbag and just go walk around. So basically a full disassociation, 200-meter walk. So I basically just gave you a workout based on the state that I want you to be in, not based on how many meters I want you to walk or how many minutes. So if I can explain people the intent, the state that I want them to complete the actions in, they could be a lot more efficient as to how they complete a workout. So now I can start to bring in stressors to make them perform better. Right? If you want somebody to do a deadlift, do you want them to be mellow and relaxed and no big deal? Or do you want them to internally be like, I'm going to fucking murder this bar? Right? Those are two very different states. Right? Or what if you walk up to the bar and you're already scared? You're already in a flight state rather than a fight state. What's going to happen then? Right? So creating the proper state for the action is crucial for anything that you do, from walking the dog to a massive workout, a competition. The intent behind it, the state that you need to be in, is much more important than just completing the action.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Mate, thank you very much for today. I feel like we've warmed up and we should... I've got some...
I'm ready, dude. Just leave the camera rolling. I'll just keep talking.
I feel like I'm in a fucking sympathetic fight state. I want to, but I got to fly.
Perfect.
So look, we'll obviously chat and let's get you back on, if not next week, the week after.
Perfect, man.
And put some time aside and really sort of pull some of those things apart. And I want to talk more about state as well and eliciting state. Which is some of the stuff that I've been working on the last probably 6 months. So
I love it.
Yeah, really good. All right, brother. Thank you so much for jumping on. If people want to find out more about, of course, yourself, even though you're not as active on old Instagram,
social media,
hashtag.
I'll start being more active.
Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, where can they find out more about StrongFit as well?
If you go StrongFit1 on Instagram, I'm Rare Barracuda, and then we have a YouTube channel. So StrongFit YouTube channel has a bunch of free stuff, man.
Yeah.
There's a ton of content on there.
There's fucking heaps. And so people who want to know about the seminars, jump on strongfit.com.
Strongfit.com, yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
And then we have free courses as well on StrongFit Teachable.
Good man. Yeah, I just signed up to Teachable as well. That's good.
Yeah, so it's some good stuff in there.
Fantastic. Mate, thank you so much. I look forward to catching up again.
Awesome. All right, man. Have a good one.
I will. Thanks, man. Now, for you guys, if you found this beneficial and you enjoyed this and you know someone else who you think would also find it beneficial, please, by all means, share this delightful man's voice to all your friends. Otherwise, guys, until next time, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick, slay the dragon. I'll see you guys soon.
Later.